Thanks very much. Hey, this microphone's full now.
That's just the sensitive of it.
Oh, okay, no problem. So very much in contrast, I'm going to show you a different project, which is Roseneath Street, Clifton Hill. It's a project that it's a very different end of the sort of market. This is a project that we delivered under our company Assemble. So it's located in Clifton Hill. There's the CBD, this lovely little pocket, which has got the Yarra wrapping around it and the Eastern Freeway to the south. So the site's there in the middle. The reason I wanted to show these aerial photographs is to show the context in which we built this 6-story building, which is largely 1- and 2-story heritage-listed Victorian terrace houses, and the odd little townhouse project, but mostly about 3 stories. It had this beautiful brutalist building on it, and I wanted to keep the whole thing. But what I've learned, and I'm sure all of you have as well, that only architects like brutalist buildings. Because knowing that we were going to do a 6-story building, we decided to do a lot of engagement before planning with the local residents group. So we met, for example, the Historical Society of Clifton Hill. They hate that building so much. So we actually ended up in a bit of a compromise where we were able to keep one of the 2 blocks. It's kind of an interesting dynamic. I think if I had my time again, I would probably not engage with them and try and keep the whole thing. But we ended up in a very unusual situation where we actually had lots of letters of support from the local community for the project through that process. We also, the reason we set up Assemble many years ago, alongside Fieldwork, myself, my partner Ben Keck, and my partner Giuseppe De Meo, was that we really wanted to put design more front and center in the sort of development process, and we were also very keen to run a process which I hope has started to influence other developers, but of design presentations and design workshops with the prospective purchasers. And what it did is it really allowed us to be very focused on what we spent the money of the project on. So gone were all these notions of high quality sort of architectural finishes. This was, I wouldn't call it austere, but it was just sensible about where it deployed its resource for the things that actually people really wanted in the building. So if we're fortunate enough to be shortlisted, you'll see it's a very basic, it's a sort of basic building, but the base build's really good. The acoustics are fantastic. There's a really big focus on communal spaces as well. So we ran a series of workshops, which were really informative for us in terms of what people really wanted rather than listening to the estate agents. And we also ran a whole lot of, through our publication Assemble Papers, a whole lot of different activation events and workshops with kids. And so it was a really sort of fun process. And where we ended up through that was to have an apartment building through the middle and then stepping down to townhouses on both sides. There was a very contaminated site, so we had to have car parking on the ground floor. And what we did to deal with the public realm and the sort of communal spaces was to have these 2 large staircases that take you up to level 1, and you've got these landscape spaces. And this configuration was also about stepping down to the context and sort of being polite to the context. So a sectional view, car parking in the lower levels. Then the townhouses on both sides. A lot of these townhouses are designed in such a way they've got a dual key arrangement. There's a little granny flat at the bottom with its own access to the car park. And there's actually a couple of instances in the project where people are actually using it that way. So there's a lady whose mum lives downstairs, and the lady lives with her daughter, and it's literally a granny flat downstairs, and they sort of share the living space together and then the bedrooms. And then that's the communal walkway space with the gardens, and then the apartment building through the middle. The apartments are very wide and very shallow. It's a double-loaded building, but they're still wide and shallow. So going up through the building, on the ground floor there's a multi-purpose communal workshop space, the ground floor of the townhouses, the car park through the middle. And that's another thing that was fascinating. So we built this whole community around Assemble Papers. We thought no one would want cars. But in actual fact, a lot of people have got work vehicles, a lot of people with kids. A lot of people are sort of embracing electric cars, you know, so we actually did incorporate car parking into the project, which was very interesting as well. So this is that main sort of communal space that wraps around those open staircases. And here, this is one of those examples of instead of having, say, timber cladding in the lobby, we set aside a 65 square meter apartment and actually turned into a communal space that everyone owns together. And that came through the process that what do people actually want in the building? And this also came out, we set up Assemble after I'd spent some time in Denmark and looked at co-housing projects, you know, and this idea of shared amenity. So going up through the building, the townhouses drop off, and then the apartment building. I want to show you some images now of the project. So that's the remnant of the brutalist building, some apartments on top and little bridges, and then these open staircases. There's no gates on the stairs, so anyone can go 24 hours a day and walk up through them. But if you want the definition of passive surveillance, go and stand in that space, you know. And it's been a really lovely space for the residents to kind of use, engage with the street. So it's kind of that, it's a bit of a cliche now, but the idea of a neighborhood stoop. On the ground floor, we've got a cafe and the workshop there as well. And I should also note that I'm living there, my two business partners are living there, the project architect who did it's living there, so we're actually tasting our own medicine. So this is a little snap that our project architect, Bryony, who's our associate, and she ran the project from her apartment, took. And this is a pretty classic scene on the street. We set back the ground floor to give real breathing space to the hospitality tenancy. We put the workshop right at the front. And this is not like a beautiful architectural photo, but I think it really captures the important things about this building. So that's Janet. She lives on my floor, and she's just a total legend. And this dude here, whose name I can't remember, but he's helping her fix the bike. This dude's wrestling with the washing while his partner's watching. I think she's having a glass of wine. And this is a really classic scene. And that workshop has become this really lovely community activator. It engages with the street and also with the lobby. So going up the staircase, this is what the landscape looks like, the townhouses and the apartments. The apartments have got, another thing we found is that people want operable external shading. That's an important thing. So we spent money on that. So we've got fixed eaves on the north, proper operable shading on the east and west. So you can see the landscape spaces. So people's main private open spaces on that level actually engage with that pedestrian walkway space. And it's been lovely during COVID. Kids literally run between the houses, and there's this really lovely community feel there. The bridges across. This is the barbecue area at the front, and this is the communal space. It's sort of quite pared back in its design because it has to fulfill lots of functions. It has yoga, it has Pilates, it has dinner parties, and I'm actually setting up for my daughter's 7th birthday party there tomorrow. It's almost like our little scout hall that we all share, and there's an online booking system. And what's also lovely about it is it engages really well with the street, and also the neighbors walk up past here. And often you'll walk up through here and there'll be someone barbecuing, stop and have a chat. And through this sort of thing, we've managed to, it's become this really quite lovely, positive community. A framed view back of the existing context, and then going into the apartments. So again, with the apartments, the focus wasn't on sort of expensive sort of architectural flourishes. It was very much about nice, big, beautiful windows, just high quality, simple things, big sliding doors. And we also gave actually the purchasers options through the process, whether they wanted to have a basic kitchen or an up-spec kitchen, basic bathroom, up-spec bathroom, and a whole lot of little extras. So it allowed people to deploy their budget in a sensible way. And a lot of people actually went for quite a basic sort of fit out, because it also just meant from a sort of cost price point of view, they could sort of enter the market. So our focus was very much on trying to deliver really good value for money. And the acoustics, for example, I'm really proud about that. We did so much work on the acoustics, and it's not something you see, but when you're actually living there, is that time? Okay, well, I'll just finish with this slide. Thank you very much.